Hello, beautiful people. This video is for Unit 2, Test 2, Remediation. All right, remediation. Here's how you're going to check your answers. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to talk about each question, and this is how you check your answers. When you're ready to retest, you are to take your remediation to your teacher, show her that it is completed fully, and then y'all will talk about your retest options. And here we go. First question, identify whether the relation is a function or not. So first, to determine if it's a function or not, we are worried about if the x values repeat. Now, the best way to do this is to make a chart, x comma y, 1, 5, 2, 4, 5, 3, 2, 8. And we see that we've got two x values repeat, meaning that it is not a function. Not a function. All right, don't forget also within this video, you can go back, you can replay, you can hit pause, you can rewatch it as many times as you need to as well if I'm going too fast. The second question, identify whether the relation is a function or not, but this time we have a graph. Specifically, we have looks like it's going to be an exponential graph. Now, when it comes to graphs, again, we don't want the x value to repeat, but we have the vertical line test. So for the vertical line test, that means I can take my pencil and I can go all the way across, and I want to check to make sure there's no two different x values that touch my pencil at the same time. And I'm going all the way across, and I don't see any of the same values that touch my pencil twice, so that means that it is a function. Now, something that's not a function looks like this, that if I had something that touches here and something that touches here, okay, that would not pass the vertical line test. It touches here and here at the same time. It touches my pencil 2 times. All right, same thing, identify whether this is a function. This is still a graph, so I'm going to take my pencil, go all the way across, making sure it doesn't touch 2 separate points, and it doesn't, meaning it is a function. It is a function. And then the very last one we have is a table. Now, we're only worried about the y values. Do any of these y values repeat? I've got -2, 0, 2, and 4, and they don't repeat, which means it is a function. So 1 was not a function, 2, 3, and 4 were all functions. All right, looking at the back side of the paper, this one is a word problem that we've got to match a graph to. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. So to rent a rowboat at the fair, it's supposed to be fair right here, not the ferry. I'm not sure what a ferry is. Teachers make mistakes all the time. The cost is $5 for the life preserver and $5 an hour for the boat. Distinguish the graph that models the cost of renting a boat. So I need something that repeats, something that happens more than once, something that happens repeatedly. $5 an hour means that it happens repeatedly, meaning it's going to be my rate. It's going to be 5x. And then I have $5 just for the life preservers. That's going to be 5x plus 5. Now, here I'm looking for a slope. That's my slope, 5, but I'm also looking for a y-intercept of 5. Now, I'm thinking about all of the different options I have for my graph. I know C is not a good answer choice because it has, 1, it's not at 5 at all, and 2, it has no slope. So C is not a good answer choice. I also know that B is not a good answer choice because it starts at 0, 0, 0, meaning it doesn't have a y-intercept. Well, I know that my y-intercept here is 5. So B is not a good answer choice, which leaves my 2 options. I've got A and I've got D. And here I want to take a look at the y-intercepts. My y-intercept here is at 10, and then my y-intercept here is at 5. So because this y-intercept right here matches this one, D is my correct answer. All right, moving on to domain and range of the relation. This one is very tricky. You have to know your x's and y values here, okay? You have to know your x's and y values. So I'm going to use my two highlighter colors. I'm going to make my x values in yellow, and I'm going to highlight where the graph starts and where the graph stops. So it starts at -3, and it goes all the way to 1. So I'm looking for all of the answer choices when it talks about our x values, which is our domain. I'm looking from -3 to 1. This one's -3 to 1. This one's 1 to -3, so that's not going to work. This one's -3 to 1, and then this one's -3 to 1. And if I'm taking a look at the differences between all of them, I am looking at the signs, the inequality signs, meaning I need to look at these two signs, and these two signs. Now, what's really going to make a difference here is our whole. Our whole is only going to be the less than sign, all right, the less than sign. So B is not a good answer. B is saying that that is a filled in whole like this, just like it is for 1. Now, I'm taking a look at the two different answer choices when it comes to A and D. And A and D are literally identical, so that probably was just a typo on our part. So if you chose A or D, that would have been okay, all right, A or D. Now, the reason why it goes from -4 to 0 is -4 is the lowest value, and our y value right here is 0, okay? So we don't care what happens in the middle. We only care about what happens on the far left and the far right, and how far up and how far down the graph goes, okay? And that kind of leads us into one of the short answer questions later on that we'll get to. All right, a couple more multiple choice. This one I feel like would be a great calculator question, or if you didn't know how to do this, it's asking for what is the value of x, meaning I'm looking for x is equal to, meaning I take 4 and I plug it in for f of x. 4 is equal to 8x minus 12. I can add 12 to both sides of the equal sign. 16 is equal to 8x, so x is equal to 2. Now, one way that you could have done this in the calculator, let me find my calculator, is that you could have went to y equals in your calculator. You could have typed in the function 8x minus 12. Oops, hitting buttons here. 8x minus 12. I could have went to the table and I could have looked for when when x is 4. Or no, when y is 4. When is x 2, right? That's what I'm looking for. Yes. When y is 4, what is our x value? So y is 4, our x value is 2. Now, comparing the graph to the table, the line to the table. So we're determining and comparing the slopes of each function. Which one increases at a more rapid rate? So I'm looking for the slope that increases the fastest. Which one has the higher slope, the bigger number of the slope? So if I'm looking here, I got to look at the differences between my rises over my runs, right? Here, the differences I have here, I'm adding 6, adding 6, adding 6. But here, my slope is 3 for my function. But my slope here is going to be 6, meaning my faster slope is going to be g of x. G of x increases at a higher rate. Now, a lot of people miss number 9 just based on the wording, right? Don't let the words trip you up. So Dr. Reiser buys a car for $45,000. His car payment is $950. What does the point 0, 45,000 represent in this situation? Well, first of all, it represents the total about how much he paid for the first car, right? 0, 45,000. That is X. Oh, y'all can't see that in that color. That is X, Y. Now, when X is 0, this is a y-intercept, okay? A y-intercept, meaning B is not a good answer choice and C is not a good answer choice. Now, let's really think about this right here. Is 45,000 the monthly payment, how much he pays per month, or is it how much the car costs? Now, if you go back to the question, it says he buys a car for $45,000, but his car payment is $950. So $950 would be the payment. So that means D is my correct answer. This would happen while I'm making a video. Mr. Bond, please call the front office. Mr. Bond, okay. So here we go. I hope that didn't interrupt. I tried to pause it. We'll see how this video turns out. So now we have D'Angelo. He decides he's walking dogs over the summer for extra money. He charges $16 as a one-time fee. That seems important. One-time fee for gas. And then he charges for each hour, he charges $20. That's pretty steep. I ain't gonna lie about that. So which one is going to make a function? So which one's going to create our function? So each hour, that's going to be our slope because it happens repeatedly. 20x. And then he's going to charge that one-time fee for that also. Meaning 20x plus 16 is going to be my answer. That one-time fee is always going to be the y-intercept. Now, let's talk about domain and range again. All right, domain and range. So I want to highlight my x values. All right, my domain is going to be my x values. I'm going to highlight how far left I can go, how far right I can go. Now, there's two different ways that we can write this, and I'm going to write both ways for you. All right, I can go from -4 to 4, -4 to 4. Now, here I have a closed dot. Closed dots are going to be brackets. If it's an open dot, I'm going to have parentheses. So because it's closed on this side, and it's open on this side, I'm going to have a parentheses. Now, closed also means less than or equal to. Open means less than. So if you're writing this with an inequality, it would look like this. -4 less than or equal to x less than 4. This right here is straight up memorization. Okay, that's just something that you're going to have to memorize. And it doesn't go away. We're about to get into it with our next unit that we're into right now. All right, our y values are going to be in green. My lowest point here and my highest point here. So how low I can go is -3. How high I can go is 5. Now here I've got 2 closed dots. Closed dot here and a closed dot here. So I'm doing brackets. -3, closed is less than or equal to. But instead of having an x, I'm talking about y values. Less than or equal to 5. The only thing you've got to really worry about here is the open dots. Open dots are going to be parentheses, and you're going to have less than. It'll never be greater than or equal to here. It's always going to be less than or equal to. Now, the other thing we've got to talk about is that, is this continuous or discrete? Discrete means that there is no line, meaning it just looks like random dots going up like this with our sequences that we're talking about in class now. So this is continuous. I have a line here. Everything can be a relation. Any kind of list of numbers can be a relation. And then does this pass the vertical line test that we talked about on page 1? And it does. So continuous, relation, and function. Which that leads us into our last thing. We've got to look at this equation or this line and create an equation. Now, when we're talking about equations, we need slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Now, where does this graph cross the y-axis? Right here at 3. So my y-intercept is going to be plus 3. To calculate slope, it is rise over run. All right, rise over run. So thinking about this, if I'm going this way, am I rising or am I falling? I am falling, which means it's going to be negative. I go, and I'm trying to go to this point right here. So down 1, 2, 3, down 3, and I go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. That's all I do for my slope. Negative 3 over 5. Now, don't forget you need y equals 2, but you also need an x. All right, a lot of people left out this x right here being multiplied by your slope. So if we're thinking about this, y is equal to negative 3/5 x plus 3. Now, remember, discrete means no line. Continuous means it continues on and on and on. It has a line. So continuous right here. Now, domain for our x values. On this side, I have my x values and my y values. They stopped, which means I had to have an interval. I had to stop at -4 and 4. Here, I've got arrows. I've got arrows and they keep going on and on and on and on and on forever. Meaning if they go on and on and on forever, they're going from negative infinity to positive infinity. Same thing with our range. Our range is going to go on and on and on and on and on forever. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So it crosses the x-axis right here at 5. And that's going to be 5, 0. The y-intercept you can also find in your equation, but it also crosses the y-axis. It crosses the y-axis at 3. Now, you can't just write a number. These are points here. So it is 0, 3. 0, 3. The biggest thing when it comes to intervals of increasing and decreasing is you have to think about positive or negative slope. So here on my line, am I going to be increasing forever or decreasing forever? And because I'm going down from left to right, that means I'm going to be decreasing. I'm going to be decreasing forever and ever. Now, increasing, I can't be increasing here because I'm decreasing forever and ever. What kind of messed up junk is this? I'm in my room all by myself and the light just goes off. There we go. It literally does not see me over here. That's how small I am. Okay. How rude of this room. I swear there's a ghost in 201. Now, minimum means the lowest. Hold on, let me think about that. Yeah, lowest point. Maximum means the highest point, meaning it stops. The lowest point is going to look something like this, and the highest point is going to look something like this. And our graph doesn't look like this. It doesn't stop. It doesn't have a highest point or a lowest point, which means I don't have any. I have none for minimum, none for maximum. Now, end behavior. You really got to think about this when it comes to end behavior. So x is approaching negative infinity. So here's what I tell my kids. Here I am on the x-axis. And I can be driving a car like Miss Sloan said, but we're going towards negative infinity. All right, so we're walking this way. I want to see where the end of my graph is going. Where is my graph going? It's going towards positive infinity. It's going to go up and up and up and up and up forever towards positive infinity. So positive infinity. And it's the complete opposite for my end behavior for my if I'm going towards positive infinity. If I go towards positive infinity this way on my x-axis, my graph is going down, and it's going down towards negative infinity. And that is it, you guys. So as soon as you complete your remediation, check your answers using this video, give your teacher your remediation packet, and that way you can retest, all right? You can retest.